Where are the first advance estimate pointing? Towards a boom or just a bubble? What is the real story behind 7.4% growth? Where are the drivers and where are the risks lying ahead? When first advance estimates are released, they do not just give us a GDP number, but they also give us an early verdict of the whole economy. And this time the verdict says the growth of 7.4%. Hello everyone, welcome to Vajram and Ravi's Flash News. My name is Shubhangi Singh and today we are going to discuss in detail the first advance estimates which have been just released. So we will be starting with understanding that what exactly we mean by first advance estimates. What exactly are advance estimates? So when we are talking about advance estimates, they are official numbers, but the thing here you need to note is that they are the earliest numbers that are giving us insight. This is the earliest data. This is not the final data. There is a lot of extrapolation. There is a lot of indication that is present for the given financial year. Now, this is the data which gives us an insight into not just the GDP, but also what gross value addition has taken place. And it is released every year on 7th of January. Now, when we get to see the first advance estimate, it is not just a number which is put in front of us, but it becomes very important for the Union Budget which is supposed to come on 1st February, and this first advance estimate works as a critical input for the Union Budget and how the fiscal math would be done in the given financial year and how RBI, our central bank, would be managing all of this. But because this is an early snapshot, the data is not finalized, the third quarter numbers are not out yet, here we get to see a lot of indication and extrapolation. So this number is not final. The final outcomes will be coming in upcoming estimates like revised estimates, budget estimates, etc. If you want me to do a detailed video on this, let me know in the comment section. When we are talking about first advance estimates, we have to understand that this estimate is released by National Statistics Office and this is under the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. Proper release is ensured by PIB, that is Press Information Bureau, every year. So when we have our first advance estimate in front of us, we will be having a more detailed second advance estimates by 27th of February, and this is also very important for us because in this advance estimate we have the constant prices of the base year 2011 and 12, but the base year has been changed now. So when we will be getting the second advance estimate, it will be talking about GDP growth of last 3 financial years, of the third quarter of this financial year, and that would be based on the new series based on base year 2022 and 23. Now that we have a fair idea of first advance estimates, second advance estimates, now let us move ahead and see what has unfolded. Now let us move ahead and see that how exactly this is culminated. When we are talking about the first advance estimate, it is very important to understand that because this is an early understanding, here we use only the benchmark indicator method. That means for the financial year 2025-26, we use 24-25 provisional estimates. Last financial year's provisional estimates are used as base to understand that what kind of growth, what kind of gross value addition, what kind of GDP growth has been seen, and that is why we have sector-wise extrapolation because high frequency indicators are present. Now when we are culminating this particular data, the sources which are used are basically IIP, all the listed companies from the quarter 2 and quarter 2 their results, the crop, livestock and their estimates. Then we have all the estimation from different segments, most importantly GST outward supplies, but as I said, this is a early snapshot because till November 2025 we have included the outward supplies. Then there is also understanding of union and state accounts which is taken in, and most important thing that you need to remember, especially for first advance estimates, that we have expenditure approach which uses imports, exports, government's expenditure and capital goods data. That is why a fundamental discrepancy exists here, because it's just indicator based and there is a lot of extrapolation. You get to see a gap between what production has been done and the expenditure estimates that come through it. For example, when we are talking about, now let us look at the data that has been put forth by the government. As you can clearly see, this is for the financial year 2025 to 26 and it has all the expenditure components, and if you look closely you will also find that this is based upon constant prices. And how do we look at constant prices? We look at the constant prices using a base year. So in the first advance estimates, as I mentioned, the base year that has been used is 2011-12, but the second advance estimate that will come, I'll do a detailed video there also, that will be for the revised base year, that is 2022-23. Now when we are talking about expenditure, if you remember from national income accounting, when we are calculating GDP, we use it as C plus G plus I plus X minus M. That is consumption expenditure, then we have investment expenditure, government expenditure and net exports. So in this context, when you see you have private financial consumption and expenditure, that is consumption expenditure, then you have government final consumption expenditure, you have gross fixed capital formation which is investment expenditure again, and then you also have imports and exports, which finally gives you the number for GDP, where we are seeing as compared to the last financial year which was 6.5, we have 7.4 in front of us. You have to remember this is the provisional estimate of 2024-25 and this is the advance estimate lying in front of us. Now based on this, let us look into the key highlights that have been shown and what are the real drivers, what is the growth number that we are expecting, and also what are the risks that have been highlighted in the first advance estimate. So if you look at the real GDP growth, when we are talking about real GDP growth, that means this is inflation adjusted. And this has been highlighted as 7.4%. However, if we do not adjust and we look at nominal GDP growth, the number has been at 8%. Gross value addition growth has been 7.3%. Again, real GV growth is 7.3, but nominal GV growth is 7.7%. And this number stands in consistency with the revisions that we have seen in the latest times from RBI which revised the number from 6.6 to 7.3% in terms of GDP growth, where IMF also acknowledged the changes, and many other rating as well as international agencies are consistent with the numbers which have been provided in the advance estimates. When we are talking about in numbers, the real GDP stands somewhere around 201.9 lakh crores and real gross value addition is around 184.5 lakh crore. So this shows there is a clear acceleration as compared to the previous year. The numbers have risen, and we are also seeing that not just cyclical factors but also some structural changes that have contributed. The numbers that we are changing, that we see increasing, are because of that. Now let us further bifurcate and try to understand more about the numbers that have been put in front of us, starting with main sectoral growth that has been talked about. So if we break down all the sectors, you will be able to see in this particular diagram that, especially if we are mentioning three sectors, that is manufacturing, then we have trade, hotels, transport, communication, services, and financial, real estate, professional services, and then public administration, defense and other services. They have shown a huge jump, where we are seeing a jump for manufacturing from 4.5 to 7%. There has been a jump from trade, hotels in 6.1 to 7.5, and financial 7.2 to 9.9, and public administration 8.9 to 9.9. So these are the ones which have been headlining the growth, and the most important factor here is that the secondary sector, that manufacturing as well as construction, they have played a stabilizing role. However, the lag has been seen in the agriculture, that is primary sector. Agriculture and allied sector has unfortunately seen a dip, and there has been dip in another sector, that is electricity, gas, water and utilities in terms of expenditure, which has come down to 2.1 from 5.9%. There has been a dip, a huge dip in mining and quarrying, again associated with primary sector. So if we understand the sectoral composition, we can clearly see that the service sector is contributing humongously, then the secondary sector has been the stabilizing factor. However, the primary sector has a lot of scope to contribute, enhance, especially when we are drawing a comparison as per the last year's provisional estimates. Now we will be moving ahead and further breaking it down to understand that what has been the reason of the growth that lies in front of us. So when we are talking about the drivers, the first main driver is the enhanced expenditure. Even if you are looking at the consumption expenditure, where we are talking about private final consumption expenditure, that is around 7%, and that has comparatively seen a dip as per last year. This is indicating that we are comparatively on a recovery mode in terms of consumption, but the boom that is required in terms of consumption, that has not arrived yet. When we are looking at government's end, government's final consumption expenditure, we get to see an uplift here, that is towards 7.8%, which is an increase from 7.1%. And here we get to see a mix where public capital expenditure has been immense, combined with private crowding in as well. And most importantly, whenever we see increased public capex, there is always a problem of private crowding out effect taking in place. And fortunately, with right regulations, with right structural changes, private crowding in has been ensured instead of private crowding out effect. Apart from that, this very expenditure from government's end has been the main facilitator for our major contributors such as services sector and construction sector, and a stabilizing factor has been coming from net exports, where we have seen limited growth, but it has been stabilized, especially in the times of global chaos that we are seeing right in front of us. Apart from these side drivers, we have some front end drivers such as the service sector, which has dominated the growth in front of us, be it the finance, real estate and governance. They have relatively been insulated from all the global shocks, and the growth has been very consistent. Apart from that, another major factor comes in from public capital expenditure and the investment cycle that has been initiated by it. That means the expenditure that has been done on infrastructure, defense, logistic multipliers, that has created an investment cycle which contributes to the number that we are seeing in front of us. And this also clearly adds up to the formula that we get to see in front of us. So when we are talking about GDP is equal to consumption expenditure, investment expenditure, if government is increasing their expenditure and it is increasing the overall investment in the economy, we will see a uptick in terms of GDP as well. Apart from that, a huge benefit has been derived from the formalization that has taken place. For example, the GST reforms that have been in front of us, digital payment ecosystem and the strengthening that has taken place, financial deepening, all of it is showing further output in our economy. And another important factor has been the proper capacity utilization, especially in terms of private firms and the corporates, where we are seeing fresh capital expenditure as well, because the capacity utilization has been better, the balance sheets have been clearer, and that is why inflow of investment and new capital expenditure has been ensured. The numbers that have been presented in the first advance estimates are not just because of the cyclic factors, they are also the result of structural factors, where we have seen the fiscal strategy by the government's end has been targeted to ensure the decrease in fiscal stress and enhance fiscal responsibility, where we have targeted as well as kept in mind that the fiscal strategy will be expansionary. That means government was in pouring mode, the government wanted to invest in the economy, and the cyclic effect has been seen. Furthermore, the stable macroeconomic numbers have been a huge factor here because they have been stable. That has enhanced investor confidence. Whenever you are talking about an investor, even if it is a common man or a big business person, the only thing they want to ensure from their investment is good returns, and that can be assured when there is stability. That is how you get to see whenever there is any sort of chaos, there is any sort of unpredictability, investors move towards safe haven metals because that is stable. They know their money is not going anywhere. So whenever there will be stable macroeconomic numbers, investors will be confident, the investments will stay in place, and that is something that has been seen in this year for India. Other than that, this year has been the year of domestic demand. When we are talking about Atmanirbhar Bharat, we are also talking about made in India and purchasing in India and making sure that we are going Swadeshi. So this has helped in ensuring that the global slowdown directly does not impact us. And that is why the services have been benefiting from the urbanization, the digitalization and the state capacity, which has been a result of these structural factors as well as the cyclic factors that we were just talking about. Furthermore, we cannot deny the tax reforms, especially the GST tax reforms that have been brought in. They have enhanced this tax buoyancy. So when we are talking about tax buoyancy, basically it measures that how much the tax that is collected increases with economic growth. So if economic growth is happening and the number is rising more than that, if the tax buoyancy is more than 1, that means the tax that is being collected is indicating that we have an economy where there is a strong self-adjusting tax mechanism, where the collection is increasing and where the economy is growing accordingly. And this also ensures that the public spending is sustainable in the long run. But this is not all a hunky-dory picture. We have some risks around it which we need to consider, which have been highlighted in that there is a risk of jobless growth. When we are talking about high growth services, we are seeing that this is a capital intensive and skill intensive sector. That means we might be lacking on it, and if it is not addressed with further structural reforms, then the jobless growth risk becomes real. There has been extreme stress, especially when we are talking about rural areas, in terms of inclusiveness and in terms of growth as well, because when we see at the primary sector and the numbers dipping as compared to last year show that there are constraints and we need to work on broad-based demand as well. When we are talking about consumption being increased, we also need to look into the fragility associated with it, because when we are talking about public final consumption expenditure, it is not outpacing our GDP, and that is why it comes uneven in terms of income recovery. And most importantly is the statistical revision risk. As we are going to revise our base year from 2011-12 to 2022-23, this might all alter the trends that are lying in front of us. And the highly relevant and an external one is the global economic chaos that is going on, the instability that we get to see, be it the imposition of 500 plus tariffs that is being proposed by US, be it the Venezuelan capture, be it the rift between US and Russia. All this needs to be consolidated and considered. However, financial year 2025-26 looks strong. It is investment-led, service-led, but there are a lot of things that need to be addressed, such as the employment when we are talking about primary sector growth, because that forms the very basic of a huge population-based country itself. What are your thoughts on this? Let me know in the comment section. That was all from my side. Thank you so much.